Hello everyone, today is 21st August 2020. Today in this video we'll be having a discussion of the Hindu editorial page analysis. Before we begin, this is what the cartoon of the day, which clearly shows that there is a lack of transparency in PM care funds. I welcome you all to Wifise Study Karo, where I do daily editorials. If you are new to my channel, I request you all to subscribe so that you will not miss any updates. So before I begin, there are some articles to be focused into the discussion. There are 4 articles. First article is regarding the National Recruitment Agency. I have also made a dedicated video on National Recruitment Agency and the examination structure, why and how the Indian government had made a clear examination, and also the criteria for different board combination of preliminary exam, that is one common entrance exam, that is CET. You can see it from the eye icon or at the end of the video. So less taxing on National Recruitment Agency. A standardized recruitment test is advanced, but more jobs are needed. So the Union Cabinet's decision to create a National Recruitment Agency to conduct a screening examination for non-gazetted jobs, eliminating the need for the candidate to take a separate examination for Railway Board, Staff Selection Commission and Institute of Public Banking, that is IBPS, is a welcome administrative reform measure. So for some years now, the railway has been using contractual labor in the projects and services, but the government system remains a major recruiter. In the March this year, Railway Minister Piyush Goyal told Parliament that 4 employment notifications for Group C employees in the ministry were issued in 2019 of around 1.43 lakh posts, besides a similar number selected in the previous year. Overall, the posts coming under the ambit of the proposed NRA would cover around 1.25 lakh jobs a year, which is typically attract 2.5 crore aspirants. So the gain from this single examination, when offered at a district level in a regional language as opposed by the multiplicity of the tests in far fewer locations, are self-evident. So candidates would no longer have to travel to urban centers at a considerable expense and hardships to take an employment test, and also opportunities to improve performance subject to age limits and 3-year validity of the score are a positive features. Yet the long-term relevance of such reforms will depend on the commitment of a government to rise the level of public employment and expand services in the public, both of which are low in India. So while announcing the proposal for the recruitment agency in her budget speech earlier this year, the Finance Minister Sitharaman said that NRA would be independent professional specialist organization. So there would be also an emphasis on creating advanced online test infrastructure of 113 aspirational districts, many of which are states with a low social development indices. There are laudable objectives, but it is relevant to point out that as a share of organized workforce, central government employment appears to be declining. So new posts are sanctioned periodically, but a large number of vacancies remain unfilled. So with the growing emphasis of the transferring core of railway services to the private sectors, there are many fewer government jobs on offer in the future. So moreover, jobs under this center, predominantly in the railways and defense sector, constitute around 14% of the public employment, with the rest falling within the purview of the states. So this is regarding the preliminary screening test of NRA, which will be conducted by the government in the combination of SSC, IBPS and RRB. The next article is regarding the losing proposition on the soil and the sons of soil and job. This is regarding the Chief Minister, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan announcement for the domicile of the job should be only to the Madhya Pradesh. So nativism is not a solution to the India's growing unemployment crisis. So India has seen many versions of sons of soil argument over the decades, but Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan announcement that only those domiciled there would be eligible for the government jobs in the state is not unique in that sense. So at the same time, it denotes the certain mainstreaming of nativism that more parties and states appear to adopting. Mr. Chauhan's announcement was packaged as a promise to the youths of the state, but in reality it is a sign of a gloom. So regional parties have also forced on the local sentiments, but what is notable in the recent years in the BJP is that Congress too jumping on the bandwagon. So the Congress in Madhya Pradesh is supporting this move, and in Maharashtra it is a party, the ruling coalition led by Shiv Sena, pushing measures to give the priority to the locals in employment in private sectors too. So similarly, this move of the such states are Karnataka, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana and Telangana in recent years to introduce various types of domicile eligibility for job seekers in private and government jobs have either been aborted or have limited outcomes. But the measure that rise artificial barriers go against the grain of national integration, which includes market integration. So there are regional particularities to be considered. Nevertheless, some states require certain proficiency in local language to be employed in the government jobs, which is for administrative reasons. There are also restrictions on the movement of the people into tribal areas. There are also exceptions provided in the legal and constitutional scheme of India to manage its remarkable diversity. So inciting the local passion in order to divert the public attention from the real challenge of generating employment of country's swelling youth population falls in different realm. So migrant population fulfill the market demand created by the gaps in the skills and preferences. This is the only reason, one reason by the government orders and even laws of the past in several places that mandated quotas for the locals in the employment were not enforced. The spectre of local losing out the migrant is hugely exaggerated and often designed to belugue the people. So this is what the criteria, and nativism is not a solution, but in order to create jobs they are curtailing them and also giving a statement for the nativism in the job creation. The next article is an important and also interesting article. The marriage is misconception. Addressing the poverty is the key of improving the health and nutritional status of mothers and their infants. So from the ramparts of the Red Fort and Independence Day, the Prime Minister declared that the government is considering raising the legal age of marriage for the girls, which is currently 18 years. He said that we have formed a committee to ensure that daughters are no longer suffering from the malnutrition and they are married off at the right age. As soon as the report is submitted, appropriate decisions will be taken about the age of the marriage of the daughters. This was the statement given by the Prime Minister. So the committee in question is a task force set up on June 4th, announced earlier by the Finance Minister in her budget speech. It is widely understood that, but no financial officially stated, that the task force is meant to produce a rationale for raising the minimum age of marriage for women to 21. Thus bringing it on a par with that of man. That is, so since there is no obvious constituency that has been demanding such a change, the government seems to be motivated by the belief that simply raising the age of marriage is the best way to improve the health and nutritional status of mothers and their infants. Because it flies in the face of the available evidence, we need to ask where this belief is coming from. So population control, one plausible source could be those of the advocate for the population control and who are influential and whose research is well funded. Consider, for example, an article published in the prestigious journal The Lens in Child and Adolescent Health by the Nigel Scott on May 15, 2019. It was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this article analyzes data on the stunning in children and thinness in the mothers as measures of undernourishment. So in the latest round of the National Family Health Survey, that is fourth survey from 2015 to 2016, the paper uses a rigorous method to change the flawed hypothesis. So the author examines the strength of the association between many different causal factors, that is a mother's age at childbearing, her education level, living condition, health condition, decision making power and so on. And the health status of the mother and child, as it turns out to be, the poverty of the mother plays a greater role of all by far, but both in relation to her undernourishment and that of a child, but this is not acknowledged. So the author only concede their cross-sectional design using data from single time period reduces a causal inference. So for example, becoming pregnant early might lead to reduced education or wealth. However, a woman from a poor background and lower education might be more likely to become pregnant early. In other words, instead of early pregnancy causing malnourishment, and they may have both the consequence of the poverty. So the stated concern of this study was to find ways to break the intergenerational cycle of undernutrition. Surely the best way to go about breaking such a cycle would be to pick the factors that are playing the strongest role in perpetuating it. So in this case, it will be that to address the poverty of the mother, which could be done in a measured way beginning with the most direct method of nutritional programs for the girls and women through the range of institutional mechanisms from Anganwadis and schools. However, the author chooses to concentrate on delaying the age of pregnancy, even though this is the weakest link of all. So, in fact, the age only begins to have some real significance when pregnancies are delayed to the age of 25 and above, which is true of only to a minuscule proportion of the women in India. So the article is unusually generous in its use of usual scholarly caveats, but leaves itself to open, being co-opted by the large agendas driven by the doctrine that overpopulation is the root for the evil in the poor countries. So declining fertility rates, it's unfortunate that such thinking is finding a home in its highest office of Indian government. Just a year, the Prime Minister bluntly declared the population explosion was India's major problem. As he put it, with an ever increasing population, we have to think, can we do justice of the aspirations of our child? Before a child is born to our home, we must ask if we have prepared ourselves to fulfill the child's needs, and are we going to leave the child to its fate? So perhaps he or his advisors were influenced by many international reports making alarming predictions about the future dystopias. This would result if child marriages were swiftly eliminated in countries like India, which is a home to the largest number of underage marriages in the world. So it is pity that those who have Prime Minister's ear did not bother to seek the advice of own demographers who had been studying the apparent link between the early marriages and escalating the fertility rates for decades. So as it turns out to be, the India's fertility rates have been declining too well below replacement levels in the many states, including those with the higher levels of child marriage. This could be the reason why those advocating population control have chosen the shift from fueling fears about the booming population to express the concerns of undernourishment of the children. So the costless and effortless, perhaps there has been a more clinical, cynical reason of the work. So raising the age of the marriage by amending the law is costless and can be effortless achieved by the legal faith. So why not claim that doing so will enhance the welfare of women and children, since addressing the true causes of the poor health and nutrition of the mothers and also the children is too difficult for the task. So the government will not incur any financial cost for raising the age of the marriage of the girls from 18 to 21 years, but the change will leave the vast majority of Indian women who marry before 21 without a legal protection that is the institution of marriage otherwise provides, and make their families criminalizable. So those who fervently believe that a minimum age of men and women should be the same in the name of a gender equality can suggest that India follow the global norms of 18 years of both. So given the present climate, it would even be that this move is partly promoted to the vague belief that child marriage is more prevalent and among the Muslims and help them to reproduce faster. This evidence shows that this is not the true, but such prejudice are inculcated against all evidences. So in this context, it means that interesting that states with a high mean age of marriage, that is 25 years, are erstwhile Jammu Kashmir, Mizoram, Nagaland, Manipur, even Kerala 22 years and Delhi 23 years have significantly lower mean age at the marriage. So the probable thinking Indian are fast becoming an endangered species and now become accustomed to watching helplessly as acts of state follow unfold, since she can also continue to hope for miracles. So this is regarding the marriage and the age criteria. The author says that it is not the age, it is about the poverty and malnourishment and how they need to decide on this. So this is regarding the end of discussion.